Ron.
And I'm Dave.
And it's time for episode 33 of Digital to Dice, the best podcast on the web for your sports simulations and replay needs. And today, Dave.
Yes?
Do you keep stats?
Sometimes.
Explain, but not now. But that's the topic of today's show. We're going to ask you. In fact, Dave asked you a while ago, like within the last week or 6 Mondays ago, whether or not you keep stats for your project. And so we're going to read some of those and explain the pros and the cons of doing that. And also, we're not going to talk about pineapple pizza because that's been quarantined. Aunt Becky will join us for a bad joke. But first, what are we playing?
All right. Well, should I cue up the music there, Ron?
I haven't thought of it yet, but cue up the music anyway.
Okay.
Aunt Becky's still quarantined in a room with Uncle Jesse. Can we knock on the door yet?
Not yet. They're still going over things with their lawyer.
Good one.
Oh, man.
All right. So it's Friday, the 27th of March, as we're taping this from our respective remote social distancing studios. We never figured out. Let me ask our third member of the group, Alexa, how far is it to Beverly, Massachusetts from Burlington, Vermont?
From Burlington, Beverly is 221.4 miles away by car.
I think we're pretty safe.
I think that's more than 6 feet.
I think we're pretty safe. Yes, we are.
No wonder why it took 4 hours to get here. Thank you.
Yeah, especially with traffic.
I especially with traffic. So I did the downtown thing today. We had to get some laundry soap and some other goodies like Tostitos to make nachos because the grocery store is out. The Frito-Lay man hadn't been there. And I live in a city of about 40,000, and you live in a city of about 40,000. And until I got to CVS, for the time I turned the corner on the top of the main street where we lived for that block, there wasn't anyone else out there.
Yeah, I walked the dog yesterday, and it was right around noontime. We were coming home, and he actually dragged me down to the plaza where the bank is. And it was kind of sad. We walked down. I usually don't go that way except early in the morning or middle of the afternoon because there's so much traffic at that intersection and by the highway. It's just not worth it. There's just cars everywhere, so I don't like to walk him near the traffic like that. And he dragged me there. I said, there's no traffic. And I went down to the plaza, and it was very sad. There were just notices all over the doors, closed because of the virus, closed because of the virus. Very, very sad. And then we're coming back, and I was coming back towards the house, looking underneath the highway where that intersection from the highway to the intersection is just jammed at noontime, jammed in my area. And there wasn't a car to be seen. And I took a picture. I was like, wow, this is noon. You know?
I saw that.
Now, to be fair, cars were going by at certain times, and then once the lights changed, like 10 cars came by. So it wasn't like there was no cars on the road, but that's still, it's never bare for even 2 seconds like that at noontime during the week, and it was.
I did see that your dog found a freshly painted hydrant to go paint himself.
Yeah, I was. We took a different route today. I said, let's go over here because we crossed the street. We don't usually cross the street because of the traffic in my area. It's pretty bad. And this morning I said, well, we'll go a different way. We've been going the same way for years. Once in a while we mix it up. And so we cross the street without much traffic. We had to wait 10, 15 seconds for traffic. But cross the street, took a new route. Yeah, he found a nice bright red fire hydrant that he sniffed. And we just took it. We did a 2-mile walk today going a different route. And we went by the golf course and people were playing golf. So
you can do that 6 feet apart. There's no reason, you're gathering on the tees, and I'm assuming that, if you're playing, as long as you're not letting strangers in twosomes and threesomes together.
Right. Yeah.
I'd walk the course. I wouldn't do the cart.
Yeah, they could probably. Yeah.
You don't want to be inside anyway, so you're going to take your time.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm in the woods all the time anyway, so I'm always 6 feet apart because I'm chasing my ball into the woods.
Yeah. All right, we talked about at length one of the projects that you did, and one of the reasons why we're doing the topic of the show. So, you've got a couple cool things going on. What are you playing?
Yeah. Okay. So I wrapped up the 72 Summit series using Shootout Hockey, and I think I started that actually as a what would you call it, a Calico project?
I call it a Calico, which essentially means that you're using more than one game engine to do it.
Yeah, so I was going to play game 1 with this, and game 2 with a different game, and game 3 with the third. So I had 4 games I was going to use, and after I played game 1 using Shootout Hockey, I was like, no, I'm going all 8 with shootout hockey, and I'll do that Calico project another time. I just had too much fun, and I ended up finishing up all 8 games, and I did some stats for that, and we'll talk about that when we do the stats there. But wow, what a project that was! And then ended up 4-4. The series was tied 4-4. Not in the way you think. It went back and forth. There was a couple games that each team creamed the other team. We had major penalties affect games. It was such a memorable project.
For I don't want to say a quick play game, but a highlight driven game. Your stories had stories. I mean, that was the ideal scenario. And for imagine being a 14, 15-year-old kid staying up late night, early in the morning because of the time difference, because the last 4 games were in Moscow, and watching the third period of Game 8 and how absolutely dejected you would have been at how that ended. Because that was a game after 2. The last game was a game after 2 periods.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So how it worked out is Russia took the first game. They went up 6-1 in the first game. Holy cow. Imagine that. They go up 6-1 in game 1 of the series, and then they hung on for the win. And then Canada took the next 3. So they go to Russia 3-1, thinking all they got to do is win the one game. Russia creams them in game 5 out there. And then Canada takes game 6. So now it's 4-2 after. So Canada just needs a tie or a win. And Russia pulls out both games to steal the series in a 4-4 tie, including a blowout in game 8.
And it was, 5 goals in the third in Game 8, right? It was 9-1.
Yeah, I think it was
9-1 or 9-2.
It was 2-1 or 3. It was close for a while.
It was a 2-goal game after 2. It wasn't out of the.
And I think they scored. They must have scored 5. 'Cause I think they won it 9-3.
Yeah, it was a 5. I mean, like I said, imagine staying up to the wee hours in the morning to watch that on your little black and white TV in the bedroom, or maybe your dad would have let you go down and watch it in the living room, maybe on the color set if you had some money. And oh my God!
It was just like it. And what was fun about that product? Like I said, you talk about like a highlight-driven game, giving you some memories and some feeling. Game 1, I could feel the Canadian crowd when they were down 6-1 to the Russians in Game 1, opening game of the series
in Montreal.
And I took
much more parochial than Montreal.
I took Dryden out after like 4 goals because like, man, he's just getting shelled here. You know, in first period, I pulled Dryden. That's how bad it was. I think it was 4-1. I took Dryden out because he had 7 shots. He had 4 goals. And again, it's just a highlight-driven game, and there was a lot of goals scored in this series and the whole bit. But it was just, you could feel that game because I put myself into that position, whereas I felt Game 1 just going to the Russians and how mad Canada was. So they come back and won 3 in a row. But then going to Russia, they got destroyed 9-1 in the first game in Russia. So I was like, well, it must have been a long flight. And maybe they were tired, or maybe they were cocky after winning 3 games, and they got mauled. You know, and that the series just had those ups and downs, and you could feel it play out.
Extra penalties against Canada and Russia.
Yeah, Esposito gets a major penalty. Russia scores 3 times on the major penalty in Russia. You can feel Esposito looking at the referee when he got out of the box, and Esposito scored a second period goal, and you could feel him, looking at the referee like, yeah, go ahead, put me in the box again. I'll just keep scoring. You know what I mean? Just I put myself in the mindset, what a project it was. Yeah, so I finished that up using shootout hockey, played all 8 games. A fun time. In fact, if you go to my channel here, I did a video recap. Me and you did a video recap of that. So that was really fun. So I did that. I finally hooked up my Elgato capture device, and I started playing some Sega Genesis hockey, the original game from 1991, I think it was. And I just played a quick game on there just to see it would work, and it worked pretty well. And so I can now play some Sega Genesis on the channel, stream some of that stuff, or at least record it and upload it. So you'll be seeing me doing some historical video games on the channel. So that was kind of fun. I also played, I took the advice of one of the listeners. I sparked up the 1899 baseball season, folks. The Cleveland Spiders. Yes, so I'm playing.
Bitsy spiders crawled up the waters.
I don't know anything about 1899, so this is one of these things I'm going into completely cold. I have no idea anything about baseball back then at all, so I just decided to play and have some fun. I tried to broadcast Game 1, and I don't do very good with baseball, so it was a funny thing to do. It was all fun, all good fun. And so the Spiders, who finished 20-134, only 84 games out of first place that season,
finished 35 games behind the next to last place team. I mean, there's bad. And then there's the Cleveland Spiders.
Yeah, so the Cleveland Spiders are right up there with the Golden Seals and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of 1976. So one of the people in the chat room said, hey, you should do the Spiders. So I'm doing the Spiders. They went up 1-0, Ron, in game one, top of the first. They played the St. Louis Perfectos. And they ended up losing 4-1. Not a bad outing, though. Not bad, 4-1. I don't know how good St. Louis is, but I only played the one game. So I'm gonna play every team once, and depending how fast I can play the games. I don't want to turn this into a long project, so I'll be simulating quite a few of these 150 games. But
when you're 35 games behind the 11th place team, that says everything you need to right there.
That was a tough season. So I'm going to play a little bit of that. Like I say, I won't dwell on that one. That's just going to be kind of a fun thing to do. And just to see how the Spiders do and see how bad they are. So going into it, I know what I'm getting into. But yeah, so I'm playing a little bit. Oh, that's on Action PC Baseball, by the way. That's the only place I could find the 1899 season.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people play 19th century baseball.
No, it's just funny that it's there. So I did the Spiders. And let me see. Oh, so I look for an OOTP, but they only go back to 1901.
I thought they went back to 1876.
They were 1901. At least the version I have was 1901, because I would have loved to play that with the visuals from OOTP.
The visuals have been great for that. Yeah.
And somebody wrote in, was it P-Jet? Or somebody wrote in on YouTube and said that History Maker Baseball has all-time worst set. And the Cleveland,
there you go.
Cleveland Spiders were on there.
The 62 Mets and the,
so that's something I might check out. I haven't played that yet. I don't have History Maker Baseball.
You are a glutton for punishment.
I love the odd stuff.
50 Shades of Creamsicle, I think we're going to start calling you.
I do. I love the odd stuff.
It's funny. You took off your jacket. Now I'm on my laptop screen, which is sitting just in front of where the fan is. So if you were actually in here, the fan would be blowing on you. And it's on, and so it's funny that you took off your jacket with the fan blowing on you. I just thought that was...
I'm actually hot. A quick comment on that. Actually, Midlife Crisis just posted a comment on our last episode. Yeah, episode 32.
He's a good commenter, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So we did episode 32 last week, to stream and not to stream. And he wrote in a comment about playing the bad teams. And he said it's okay to replay a brutal team if that's the only team you're controlling, I think. But
yes, I would not want. Yeah, I fully agree with that.
But when you're controlling one or two other really good teams also, it becomes unbearable to control the bad team or teams.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I'm replaying the 1919 season on Strat. I began the season controlling the Reds, White Sox, Phillies, and A's. By May, I abandoned the Phillies and A's because they were brutal. Games were taking an hour or more because of all the pinch hitting and pitching changes. It was not fun. Yes. Yep. That would make sense. So what I'm doing with this project is just myself playing the one team, playing a handful of games just to see how it plays out, more of a fun thing than anything else. Yeah, this is not a serious project whatsoever.
That's fun, though.
I can see how it's... I had fun playing my Seals project there for a while, but boy, yeah, when you play the better teams, it is so much more fun. Playing the better teams.
I think all of us tend to, even if it's not our favorite team, if there's a season, we tend to gravitate. I know I do, towards the better teams because you're going to get more.
Yeah, I wonder in that shootout hockey game with Russia and Canada being loaded, each side was loaded. Maybe that's why I had so many goals, because there were so many scoring chances. Whereas if I played two mediocre teams in shootout, you don't get that many scoring chances or that many goals.
Next, it's the Seals and the expansion Washington Capitals.
Yeah, so let me see. So I played that. So Shootout Hockey, the Sega Genesis Hockey, the Action PC Baseball with the Spiders. And last night I did a quick golf stream, Action PC Golf. Haven't done that in a while. I played a three-man tournament. I think I played Ernie Els, Davis Love III, and Ben Crenshaw. And I just played one of the new courses. I think I played the Australian course.
Oh, the Royal Melbourne. Down in
it was called something different, Black Melbourne or Melbourne Black. I don't know.
He doesn't use the real course names, but it's Royal Melbourne. It's where the President's Cup was last year.
Okay, yeah, it was I hadn't played in a while. I had a real hard time. I was bogeying every hole with all three golfers. I had a real hard time with it, but we had a really good finish at the end. I think Crenshaw pulled it out by a shot, but the other guys had a chance. Els was 2 or 3 strokes down the entire way, and he gained a couple of strokes at the end. It was fun, just streaming some golf, kicking back, playing Action PC Golf. So. So I've been playing a lot of things like that. I'm setting up to play Hockey Blast again. I'm going to give that another chance. I was actually going to contact Kenny down in Rhode Island.
Castro?
Yeah, and see if I could do like a FaceTime with him or a chat, like maybe even like we're doing now.
It.
And
He
just
really would love it.
So I don't know what his situation is, but I was gonna email him today.
He's all stuck home like the rest of us.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll be like, hey, let's set up a video chat. I'm gonna play the game. I'm gonna have you watch it and walk me through it and see how I'm doing it, and then I can explain my fun and my frustrations with the game.
Very good idea.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna do that because he's someone that really likes that game. So it's like, let me play the game. Let me show you how I play it, and let me know what you think. And I can tell you where I'm getting stuck and tell you what my problems are, and maybe it's something he can either help me through it or we can work a solution around it. Because I think, like with shootout hockey, I really worked that game to be super fun. And again, I play by about 85 to 90% of the rules in that game, and the other 10 or 15% or 20%, I've kind of
makes it what you want.
I've made it my own, and it works really good, okay? And it doesn't cheat in any way to either team. It's just a general way to play the game. And I think I might have to do with Hockey Blast the same way. I might have to make some modifications to make it fun for me. But I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to contact him after the show and see if he wants to do like a video chat while I play, and he can kind of follow along.
I think he'd love that. I think he would.
Yeah, because we were supposed to get together before all this, and then it obviously now you can't.
You know, as long as you are keeping your social distance and doing it.
Well, the new thing now, I don't know if you saw this on the news, but now if you come into Massachusetts, they're asking you to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks.
Because of all the cases from New York City.
Yeah, so if you were to drive down here, you'd have to sit outside my house for 14 days, and hopefully the coyotes don't get you.
I could pee on them.
Yes, you could.
Okay, so what I'm playing, actually, I had a couple things I'm going to talk about. 78 baseball replay instead of doing 6 games like I was supposed to by now, I think we played 4. Real life stuff keeps coming up and affecting my streaming schedule. No, kidding. Obviously, real life stuff is more important for everybody. I'm going to talk about the baseball glitch first, and then we'll go into my Super Bowl. Because I think you and I are going to have a difference of an opinion, and that's good. And somebody's home because your doggy just showed me his butt. So Wednesday, got a great pitching matchup. I got Nolan Ryan going for the Angels against Denny Martinez for the Orioles on the noon stream. And so this is, we've talked about before, like, oh no, I'm down 13-0 on a Sunday morning at 8:30. I'm stopping this. Okay. But I never, ever, ever stop a live stream. We just let those go, whether it's a good game or a bad game or whatever. And so Ryan is cruising. He struck out 10 through 5. And then of all teams that had this, what I'm calling a glitch happen to, was Earl Weaver's Baltimore Orioles. The backup catcher tries to steal. Okay? That would have happened. Over the course of about 6 or 7 at-bats, the Orioles get 4 or 5 runners on, but they all try to steal second. And of those 5, 4 get thrown out. And so I told my audience, if this happens again on the next base runner, I'm going to stop the stream because it was obviously a glitch. I mean,
so if they keep stealing that much, then something's not right.
I'm happier. I'm very happy that the game is much more aggressive in having the computer try to pick you off, try to throw you off, trying to steal and other things.
But that was too much, and that was really odd.
And so I finally shut it off, and we played that game yesterday, and the issue didn't creep back up. Ryan. I think he walked 8 and struck out 12 and ran out of pitches in the 8th inning. But it really was. It's the first time in all the action PC games that I've streamed over the last year and a half, where we had to call it a stream because the game was obviously glitched.
It was almost like playing hockey, having them pull the goalie all the time. It's like, why would you be pulling?
Exactly.
It's like, come on.
It's something that didn't make sense. And if it had happened again with that 2 particular teams, because you never know, because you're setting up the same variables, it's the same lineups and the same pitching matchups. I would have just taken over Baltimore and played their offense, so it wouldn't have happened. That's
too bad because you had Ryan, kicking butt in that game.
Ryan got the win, and the Angels, I think, won the game that we redid. They were behind when I had to call it, but but Ryan
is there a way? Is there a way in that game? Just kind of thinking out of the box here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're playing along. Ryan's kicking butt. He's got all these strikeouts. They're winning the game. The computer starts, in essence, cheating or glitching. Is there a way that in Action PC that you could call the game like a rain delay or something like that and just end the game? Is that an option in Action PC?
No, that's one of the advantages of a card and dice game. I've done that a few times too. That, like, screw this, I'm done, or I've done, played 40 for an hour, and it just happened to rain. We're done. Our mercy rule, but you really can't.
Do you know if that's an option in that game by chance?
No. I know in the football game you can go back and if you haven't started another game, you can go back and replay from certain points of time. So let's say in the fourth quarter glitches out, you could go back and resume the game. I think from the last time you knew it was good. So let's say with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter or whatever.
Oh wow, okay.
I don't think you can do that in the football game.
Okay.
But no, that would make sense. I actually checked to see if there was if I had the delete last play option, because sometimes you can do that. And if the computer had started to do that, I might have done that a couple times to delete the stolen base and then seen what the computer did. And if it still tried to steal, I would have just taken over Baltimore at that point. Just one of those things that you can't dwell on it too much. We're trying to do.
It happens on a computer.
It happens. It happens, and we don't know. I promised at least 6 games a week till we see baseball again, and who knows when we're going to see baseball again. So it's a good thing there's still 2/3 of the season left. Sorry, Dave. It's baseball.
That's all right. I'll deal with it.
All right. The football thing. Played my Super Bowl on Sunday.
Championship game.
I couldn't even. The championship game for my 86 replay.
Just in case.
Was last Sunday.
Kidding.
And there was 2 schools of thought. Now, there was an upset in that game. I think I said in the open, I thought the 49ers would win by about 10 points.
I said 31-21, and it was actually 31-21 in the third.
In the third quarter, San Francisco.
And they called Tom Brady, 9-year-old Tom Brady, out of the stands.
I can do this, Davey. I can do this.
Put him in the Patriots uniform, and he led them to the...
Tony Eason had a hell of a game.
Fourth quarter, anyway.
Fourth quarter, that's all that matters.
Oh, there was some key interceptions in that game, too, right?
Including the last one. So here's the situation. The Patriots upset them. They won 38-31. It's up on YouTube. I've got a week's worth of stuff I got to post on YouTube. I've been so tired. Do stuff with you, do my streams, deal with a wife, deal with whatever crisis I have to deal with.
Speaking of that, we've been doing a nightly talk show on my YouTube channel.
I want to finish the dilemma thing.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying that, usually around 6:30, 7 o'clock every night on my YouTube channel, we have a live talk show. We talk about anything. Sometimes we talk about games like this. Sometimes we talk about other stuff. So if you are around and want to get on YouTube, it's just kind of a therapy for everybody right now as we're all dealing with the crisis and a lot of people stuck in their home. And we just started firing up. We started this last week and just people now looking forward to us coming on. And
absolutely.
Ron joins me most nights, but not every night. Sometimes I have rotating guests. Sometimes we have 4 people on, and we just chat, and we chat with the chat room, and it's just an open forum from everybody to come in and talk with us. So.
All right. So at the end of the game, the Patriots are up 35-31. I forgot how much time there was. It was. Had we reached the 2-minute warning yet?
I don't remember. It was 31-21, so they scored, a touchdown?
It was 30. So I'm talking about it's 35-31. Montana got picked off, I think, for the second time at that point. And
yes. So Patriots, they have it 4th and 1.
It's 4th and 1
on the 33. It was a 33-34.
33 or 34.
Yep. So 4th and 1. It was about a little over 2 minutes to play. I think it was right around the 2-minute warning.
2:49 rings a bell.
And so the Patriots got 1 yard. 1 yard to glory.
Mm-hmm.
1 yard to the Super Bowl, 1 yard to the Lombardi, 1 yard to the Belichick Trophy.
It must have been around the 2-minute warning because I probably could have run out the clock.
So you need 1 yard. You need 1 yard to cement the win. And instead, you punt it into the end zone for a net 13-yard kick. And there was a lot of people doubting your coaching at this point here. There was a lot of unsubs. There was a lot of unsubs at that point.
You
1 yard to glory, Jacket. 1 yard to the Super Bowl.
You won the championship. All right. So here's my thought. I want to give you my.
So what was going through your head when you had 36 inches to win the Super Bowl, and you decided to kick it 13 yards and give it back to Montana with 2 minutes left. What was going through your head? Go ahead. I'll let you. I'll let you wreck the stream. Go ahead.
Are you going to let me do this?
Okay.
If it was the other way around.
Wait. There's only one way to go into this. There we go. Okay, Aunt Becky, what were you thinking?
If I wrote them the check, they'd let my daughter in as a fake volleyball player.
That's
no,
right.
If it was the other way around, I would have gone for it. My thought process was going through that if I go for it and don't make it, I'm giving Montana 65 yards, a shorter field in 2 minutes. And I know what Joe Montana can do. They went 13-3, and Montana has got, I don't play with fatigue, okay? So he's got Rice and he's got Clark that can catch, okay? And it's not going to take very long. I think they had 3 timeouts left, too. 3 timeouts in the 2-minute warning. So I'm not going to give, as the Patriots coach, I don't want to give Montana a shorter field.
Well, I see.
You let me finish. I got to listen to you. Stifled, Edith. All right. And so I did not, in Action PC, you have, when you bring out the punter, you have 3 options. And I don't think what people paid attention to what I did. You can punt deep, which is what you do normally, okay? And that's, I think it was a 6 mile an hour. I used the real weather conditions from Super Bowl 21. So it was 58 degrees and a 6 mile an hour wind. So you can punt deep, which is your basic punt. You can punt to the sideline, which takes about 5 to 7 yards off the average. And then you can pooch punt with your punter. You can also pooch punt with your quarterback, and I've done that before too. I didn't do that with there. And so what I selected was the pooch punt from the punter, which is about 10 yards off the average. And so my thought was, okay, I'll give San Francisco the ball back at about the 10. A good pooch punt should have set them within the 10-yard line. And I don't think people would have objected too much. What people saw was me bring out the punter, and I'm going to let me finish the thought after this. And it rolled in the end zone for a touchback. And so, no, it didn't work. I gave Montana 80 yards in 2 minutes. And so it's like, you idiot, you gave him, what was that for? And so the thought process was, I'm going to pooch it. I'm going to back them up as far as I can go. If I can get lucky, I maybe can back them up to the 5, make them go 95 yards. Now, the reason why I said if I was going to go the other way, if I was San Francisco, and I would have done this too if I was playing against the modern, well, maybe not last year's Patriots, but, Tom Brady in 07 or in his prime, I'm not going to hand any top flight quarterback a shortened field to go. Yes, I know if I make that first down, I win, or the Patriots win, because I don't want people to think that I'm, stacking, putting my thumb on the scale. I mean, you'd want the shortened field too. I'm just feeling that's my play there is to go conservative and say, okay, beat me. And just happened that the computer, the random dice kind of whatever the computer rolls for that didn't work. But, I'll defend that. I went for a pooch punt with a punter to back them up as far as possible. Yes, if I get the yard, I win the game. But if I don't, I'm giving them the ball in the 35. And what happened was, if you go back and watch the game, is that Montana got the ball over midfield and then got picked by, it was a deflected pass by Don Blackman right in the waiting arms of Fred Marion, and he ran it, and we kneeled, and I hit a field goal to make it 38-31. So it ended up working out right because the Patriots defense actually played a very good game. But, I can see where if it was Tony Eason, the quarterback, or anybody else, yeah, you go for that. But do you really do that to give do you put the ball in Montana?
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. Okay, so
you have been for 8 days.
Well,
so
you just explained all the reasons why you wouldn't punt it. You have Montana, you have Rice, you have no fatigue on. You don't give Montana the ball. That's the thing you were trying to avoid, is giving Montana the ball. If you get that 1 yard, you avoid.
But if they don't, then they get it on a shortened field.
Well, I mean, you're at the 33. Okay, so if you were at the 43 or midfield, I would say, yeah, absolutely right. That's when you don't go for it. But you're inside the 40, you're inside the 35, you're at the 33. It's kind of a gray area. So that's the area you say
no man's land.
It's like it's not a field goal attempt. It's too far for that. But I think at that point you take the if it's 2 yards or 3 yards, yeah, no. 1 yard though, I think you got to gamble on the yard, because in worst case, you either give it to him at the 33, but if you punted, the chances are it's going into the end zone, because the punters were terrible back then. And even if you punted it, and they got it at the 17 instead of the 20, I mean, you still want to take you're 1 yard to glory, and you don't want to give it back to Montana. But I think that between the 33 and the 20, okay, with Rice and all those guys healthy, that's a one play. You can make up 13 yards in one play. So if you're trying to say, okay, I'm going to punt it, they take it at the 20, and now they're going to go 80 yards instead of 67 yards.
The whole point was I wasn't trying to punt for the touchdown.
No, I know. But I mean, you got. I'm just thinking that, geez, even 80 yards, you can make that 13 yards up. So if you didn't get the first down, you're not really saving anything, because Montana's going to get that 13 yards on one pass anyway. So my thing would be, I do not want to give these guys the ball back if I can help it. Again, 2 yards would be a stretch. Anything over 2 yards, you punt it. But I mean, the 1 yard, I think you got to go for the 1 yard. And if you don't get it, that's fine. But you're really only talking about, I mean, even if you get the pooch kick, it might only be 15 to 20 yards difference from where you were. And so then you rely on the D. But I don't know. I would have done it differently. In fact, even if I was playing against the Patriots, I would have gone for it. I was like, 1 yard to the Super Bowl. I mean, in your own territory, yeah, that's a little risky. But with Montana coming at you,
yeah. But if I got, the Patriots had Tony Collins and Craig James, I'm not sure I could have gotten that yard. They averaged 2.6 yards a carry.
Right. I don't know if you try to sneak it at that point, or you go. I don't know.
If I had run it, I probably would have just tried. I might have thrown in Grogan, because Grogan can still run.
Bootleg,
anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, that's the fun part about this game, is you had to make a decision, and you went one way, and it worked for you. It worked for you were playing offense at the time, so you were the Patriots at that particular point,
right.
and it worked out for you. And
I also had the advantage because I'd played both of those teams a bunch to know their strengths and their weaknesses. And 86 Montana was incredible. Oh, Eason had a great year.
Yeah, that's why I would have not wanted to punt back to Montana. Even if I got it to the 1, I wouldn't have felt confident with Montana with that ball. That's just they're a powerhouse, But anyway, there's no right or wrong answers, because everybody can play it their own way, and
New England won.
Yeah, they won.
It didn't cost.
It worked out. You played the percentages, and it worked out.
Yep.
So cool.
All right, topic at hand: stats or no? Explain, David.
All right. So we've already played the music. We're not going to play the music again. We've already played that to death. All right, so stats or no. So I played the 8 games in the Canada Summit Series, and I went back and I kept the stats. And I was talking to Ron about that, and I actually made a mistake, because I forgot I took Dryden out in game 1. So I did all the stats, and I did all the box scores, and doing the stats almost took as long as it did playing the game, because I can play the shootout game in about 20 minutes, and it took me, probably took me 10 or 15 minutes to put the stats into the box score generator, and then another few minutes to enter it into the main database. So I compiled stats for everything. I didn't do power plays or shorthanded goals. I didn't know how crazy I wanted to get with all that stuff there, okay? So I was talking to Ron about that. It's like, it's fun keeping stats, but it's also a lot of extra work to keep stats.
It is.
And there was times that I've done some projects and I started keeping stats, and even on a short playoff project. And at some point I was like, something? I walked away from the stats part of it, because I want to play the game. The game is fun. I know the stats can be fun too, but sometimes the stats become unenjoyable. They're not fun after a while because it feels like work. So that's why we put this out there to everybody. So we'll read some of the listener comments, Ron, and then maybe we'll make our own comments on.
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts.
So the thought process is like, sometimes I just play for final scores, and sometimes I play and keep stats, and both can be fun. But for me, it seems like the longer the project, the less stats I want to keep because that prevents me from playing the game. So for me, the shorter projects, I like to keep the stats on. But anyway, so let's read some of your comments. So we went to the Sports Simulations and Replays group run by our friend Dave Little. And I said, do you keep stats, and why or why not? When do you, and how crazy do you get? And here's some of the responses that we got. Glenn says, since I only play PC games, it's not fair for me to reply because it's all done for him. But when he played board games back in the day, I did keep them by hand. I can't imagine playing any kind of project and not stat keeping at least the basics. So we're not sure how deep Glenn got in his stats, and so again, how crazy do you get? Kevin says, I try to when I'm starting projects, but the projects rarely get finished, so the stats are kind of a waste of time. And that's what I was kind of talking about with some of my other projects too, where I would be playing these things and the stats would just gum up the project. It's just like I like to keep track of goals and assists and goal average and the whole bit, but it really did slow the project to a halt trying to keep the stats, and it became not fun for me. That wasn't the case in this series, okay, because I did all the stats after the fact. And he says, I probably kept them more for my baseball project than anything else. I didn't ever do the whole sabermetrics things with my stats, just the traditional stuff. It's easy to do when you're playing just one team through a season because you only have one set of stats to keep. Let's see. Matt, stats are really why I love gaming in general. I always love to see the stats at the end of a game or season, etc. Ever since getting back into cards and dice baseball games, stats have really been a driving force in keeping things going. I keep all game stats in notebooks and even have lineups written out for months in advance. Okay, George says, when I played the board games, I did just the basics. It's part of why I play computer more now because I love the stats part of the game, and it's easy to compile them on the computer and then not having to play all the games if I don't want to. So I can focus more on playing my teams and still get the full stats for the others. That's a really good point, George, about that because, I think most people enjoy the cards and dice more. And again, maybe I'm wrong here, but the cards and dice it's more intimate. It really is in a computer.
Absolutely. You're playing for you.
Yes, it's I enjoy the cards and dice more myself, but he makes a great point about if you want to keep the stats and keep the project moving along and again, not having to play every game. When you play on the computer and you simulate the games and the computer does all the heavy lifting for you, that is a big deal too. Now, I get it that you don't have the fun of playing every game and the fun of keeping the stats yourself. So again, maybe you need to balance that out depending on the project, depending on what you're looking to do, because sometimes it is fun playing every game and keeping the stats yourself. You feel more connected to it, but other times it's fun on the computer to simulate the Spiders series. I'm going to play a handful of Spiders games and simulate the series, so I'll have full stats at the end that I don't have to lift a finger for.
Right.
Whereas the Summit series, I played those 8 games. I rolled every dice. I saw every goal. I felt a part of every goal in that series. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying there's two different feelings that when you keep all the stats, you remember all these goals. But when you simulate the games, especially a longer season, you get the stats done for you, so they're there. It's faster, but maybe you don't have that connection to it.
And I think that just to add on it, I think it's one of the reasons why games where you're just reacting to what the dice rolls are and not making as many decisions, like APA and some of the others, is because you're keeping the score sheet, whether it's baseball or hockey or whatever. And so that's what's making it alive in your head. Okay, Dorsett got 4 yards on that carry. Now his 8 carries for 38 yards or whatever. And it just kind of feeds that whole imagination. And when you're done, the game stats are done.
Yeah.
Yep. So you've already started that first step. That's a very good point. All right, go ahead.
Mike says, if I am playing a card and dice one-off series, there's always part of me that wants to know the stats. It's human nature. Okay. Brian, yes, I keep stats for all my projects. I summarize after every 4 games per team. I don't get crazy, just core stats like would be found in any sports card. So that he's kind of in the middle on that. You know, he's keeping the stats, doesn't get too crazy, doesn't get bogged down with it. Sounds like he's got a pretty good system when he does the stats there. Another Mike writes in, I play 2 separate 8-team leagues. 8 as in number 8 team leagues.
Yes.
84 games per team. I do individual batting and pitching stats every 21 games, along with standings and leaders page at those points. So again, someone else who does a chunk at a time.
And that's, just kind of goes back, and again, it's all about immersion. And if you're playing cards and dice, you're keeping score anyway, so the basics are all there.
Yep. Always been a stat geek since I was a kid, so tracking season and career stats has been half the fun for me. And I'm a stat guy too, because that's what I do for work, actually, with my hockey league. I do stats, and I love it. I love doing all the stats and seeing the numbers compile and change. I do like that too. So I get that as well. Lucian, yes, keeps the mind sharp. Absolutely, Lucian. Keep the stats that were popular when I first discovered baseball. Okay, good.
Batting average is easy to figure out. It's divided by at-bats. That's really the only math you got to do, and the rest of it's all counting.
Terry writes in, I do stats, use Appa Journal stat sheets, and update after every game. Okay. Scott writes in, used to go nuts with stats, but then found it was detracting from the game itself. Yeah, another good point brought here by Scott, Ron, that the stats can take away from the game sometimes. Not, I mean,
it takes away from the time that you're playing another game too.
Yeah, and sometimes when I've played these things, it's like I enjoyed the game, like this Summit Series. If I had stopped after every game to do the stats, it would have just deflated me. Because I just wanted to play the next game right away. So I can see how doing the stats would detract from the game itself. And not saying that stats are wrong, but I was into those 8 games. Luckily, if it was 80 games, I probably wouldn't have kept stats for the whole thing. You know? And I wouldn't have had the fun that I had playing all those 8 games. I think maybe because I had so much fun, going back to do the stats kind of brought back that series in my head while I did the stats. It's like, oh, I remember that, and I remember that. Yeah. Let's see. He's replaying the 1979 Minnesota Twins and keeping a manual scorecard, summing stats, and then entering into Excel. I have a separate tab for each game along with a summary tab that is running a season total. Stats are basic batting and pitching stats along with a few rudimentary Bill James stats.
Okay. So sabermetrics.
Yep. Derek writes in, depends on what I'm doing. Last Hockey Blast project, I kept stats for the single team I was playing. However, for my second season football projects, I don't bother because I only play one team's games and a handful of others while quick playing the rest.
Okay.
So now we move over to the Digital to Dice forum. Facebook.com/group/digital to dice. And I got to go. Just bear with me 1 second. I scroll down.
Let me get my thoughts because some of them are mentioned there while you're playing.
Well, I only have 2.
Okay,
so,
go ahead then.
So we only have 2 on the Digital to Dice one. One was from Tony. He says, sometimes detail products of mine, if I get deep or build a premise around a depth of stat keeping that I get buried under. So he said sometimes on the detailed product he'll do that. And David from the UK says, I am a cards and dice pen and paper guy. I do not use electronic scoring or stat keepers. I suspect it takes me back to growing up in the UK in the 70s and 80s where I would spend hours and hours making up soccer and cricket replays in a very basic nature, keeping scores and tables on paper. I still have some of these record books knocking around at home. These days I run several season replays using Payoff Pitch, all scorecards and stat tracking taking place in writing pads. So there's some old school writing it down on the paper.
There's quite a few of us who started with the notebooks because we keep, Stratomatic would send sheets and you could run them through the copier at 10 cents a page or the printer at 10 cents a page. And go through and print those. So when I primarily did cards and dice, usually it was just one, my team in a league or one team like the Red Sox. And that was easy. I didn't really care about what they did against me. It was so, that if someone struck out 15, that was fine. But I really wasn't paying much attention to that. It was what, you were playing it for Boggs and Burks and Greenwell and Rice and Evans. And that's what you cared about, So it was whatever made it more intimate for you. And as we got more into the computer sims, I really would go through and forth through all the stats. But now, obviously, if you've watched my streams, we talk a lot about stats to set up stories, but I'm not pouring through them every week in my replays going through what happened and what didn't happen. They're there on the screen. You can see them, and I'll read them off, but it's not a big deal. Now, in my offline projects, I do pay attention to what Gretzky's doing because I picked that season because he had over 200 points. You want to see how close the game is going to do, or how well Bossy and Trottier are doing. Just that Islander team is just incredible. But I'll go from, yeah, that's nice that it's happening, to, let's say, at my 86 baseball project I'm doing with Strat. I'll look after each series. I'll just go through. I'll spend a couple minutes for the Red Sox and a couple minutes for the Mets, but I'm not married to it. I'm glad that the computer takes it, but I'm not, oh, wow, Wade Boggs is only hitting 237. That's terrible. So I guess it comes down to what you want on the project.
Yeah, for me right now, today exactly right now I'm out of work, so it's different than normal. But during my normal week when I'm working a lot, time is kind of an issue with me, as is with a lot of people. And so I like to play the games first and then do the stats second. And depending on the project, now obviously on the computer it's fun because you can play whatever computer game and they'll keep the stats for you and you can sim the games and get through a season like that, and that's really fun. But on the cards and dice, I found that depending on the project size and depending on how many games, like I say, that 8-game series was great, just keeping the stats for that. I've done some playoff games, and I think I've used like a final score type of game for that, for a whole entire hockey playoff series. Mm-hmm. And I started to keep stats for that. But that was running into a lot of games. I mean, you got four.
Oh, you start with 16 teams.
Yeah, so you get 8.
Even the 70s hockey project doing that. That's way too many.
Yeah, so you get 8 first-round matchups, and if they all go 5 games, that's 40 games to keep track of right off the bat. And then it tails off because you got some teams that are knocked out. So, why am I keeping stats on a team that only played one series? Because they're not going to be anywhere close to the top of the leaderboard. So I get through like the first round and a half, and I gave up on the stats. It says the stats are just bogging me down. I'm not enjoying it. It was fun for a while, but I think I want to just see who wins the Stanley Cup. I really don't. I don't want to see who wins the scoring race at this point, because it was starting to make the project not fun, because I would play the final score game and I play a whole series in 5 or 10 minutes, and then to go back through, especially if it was a 7-game series, and try to pull out stats for those 7 games, it was over an hour trying to figure out the stats and enter them. And it's like, man, I'm taking way too much time on the stats and not enough time on the games. So for me, I really need to weigh out the project length and how much I'm really into it. Now if I was going to play a football season, let's just say I said, okay, I'm going to take like a fast action football or something like that, cards and dice. I'm going to play, Patriots 16-game season or whatever it is, or whatever team. Right. I would probably keep stats for that one team and 16 games, and I could probably do that, because you play the one game, you're done, you have your stats, you load it into Excel or whatever, you're done. You play the next game, you do the same thing. But to try to do it for everybody,
I'll never do it for everybody manually. It's again, you take your team, and because baseball, you're keeping stats, you're keeping the score while you play the game. A lot of the work is done for you, and so you just take that 2 minutes and go, okay, he struck out, he singled, he walked, he hit into a fielder's choice. So he's 1 for 3 at bats, 1 hit, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. It's already done. The next thing you got to do is, for whatever you want to do it after every game, you just move your tally sheet numbers over to another notebook for that. For hockey, if you're sitting there going, for Stratomatic, had sent score sheets with their hockey. So, okay, Bork took the shot. So at the end of the game that Bork had no goals, 2 assists. He had 5 shots, no penalties, and you can figure, if you want to get cute and do plus, minus, whatever. So the goalie numbers right away. Pete Peters had 30 saves on 33 shots, and they won, so he played 60 minutes. I don't have to pull him. I know his goals against average right off the bat. You divide 30 by 33, there's your save percentage. It's mostly done, and if you're taking an hour or 45 minutes to an hour to play a game, and you're keeping all that stuff just as you're playing along, it's all done for you. It's an extra 5 minutes, and then you just go through, okay, here's my 6 sheets, or I played 5 games this week. Let me just go to Excel and go, okay, I could see that. But if you're just, because you like to play the quicker projects anyway, the quicker play games, it's just not second nature to you.
And the thing is that there's no
stats that doesn't play the game.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's all just what you feel like doing. And that's the great thing about this is that, there's been people that I've seen, I don't know if they're in our groups or they're in the Delphi groups, but they, there was one person that was like, yeah, I'm replaying I don't know if it was the 70 or the 71 or the 72 hockey season, and he's playing every single game. And he's keeping the stats. And I says, wait a sec. You're actually rolling dice and playing every single hockey game in that season, keeping standings and individual stats? He says, yeah. And I was like, and he's like, I've been working on this for 2 to 3 years now. And,
right.
And it's just, this is going to be a 10-year project, it sounds like.
But that's his opus. I mean, it's like, there's nothing wrong with, like, you love doing the online puzzles. There's nothing wrong with doing the 300-piece puzzle because it's just what you do for enjoyment. But there's also nothing wrong with doing the 1,000-piece puzzle.
No.
You're obviously not going to sit and do it one night or a week, but it's a hell of a sense of accomplishment when it gets finished.
And this guy's doing it and enjoying it, and it was like, wow, all the power to this guy who's going to do something like that. So good for you, man. Now that's a rarity. That's a rare that someone's going to roll cards and dice for an entire season and keep all the stats. That's rare. I get that, But the other thing we got to talk about too, real quick before we wrap up, it's the utilities and the helpers now for cards and dice. I mean, a lot of people use iScore or a ball score or something like that for their baseball game. So
for baseball, yes.
So you set it up and you play the game on the table, but you tap on the iPad or the computer and you keep the stats that way. And I think it might keep the stats at the end of the game, so you have it all set to go.
Ball stat and ball score do, and you could even download the real lineups and the rosters. So it pretty much is you pull out the cards, you set it up with the lineup files, and so it tells you it makes game playing a lot easier. So people aren't on the wrong teams and vice versa.
Oh yeah, I'll have to check that out.
You just input it like you would if you were keeping score, and at the end you import into ball score, and it gives you, or ball stat, and it spits out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, see that's so that there. I use the Strat Hockey Utility, as many of you guys know. When I play the cards and dice, I rather use that instead of sitting at the table playing just myself. I set up here on the desk. I have the Stat Utility going. You still need the cards to play the game, so it just kind of keeps the stats for you. But for me, I can play a game faster like that because the utility rolls the dice for you. It flips the cards for you. It tells you which card to look at. You keep track of shots and penalties and goals and assists all in the program. So you play the game cards and dice, but you're using this utility to keep track of it. And at the end of the game, it spits out all the stats. The only thing you have to do at the end of the game is select which goalie was in net and put in their shots and saves. And penalty minutes if they have any. And that's it. And then it gives you a box score and it keeps the stats, so you could actually play an entire season right on there if you wanted to. Now, the only thing it doesn't sim the games, okay? Not like the PC game. It doesn't sim it. This is a utility to help keep track of your cards and dice stats. So for me, I'm doing the 71-72 Stanley Cup Finals with Boston, New York, and I've been using the utility to play the game. And it does a fantastic job, and I've even streamed a couple of games with it. It's not graphically the most fun thing to look at, but I mean, it's a way to keep track of your cards and dice stats right on the computer.
And again, I think the short answer to this long question that we've given is there is no wrong answer.
Yep.
There is no.
But we were just wondering,
did you enjoy?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about what we enjoy with keeping stats and when we keep stats, and we read out some of the answers from when you guys keep stats. So it's interesting to see what kind of feedback we'll get here on this show. So again, as always, leave us a comment, whether on YouTube or on Spreaker. Digitaltodice.com is our website. And what do you guys think about keeping stats? And what do you think about some of the things that we do and some of the other listeners do as far as keeping stats for your project? So Ron, let's wrap this up here, shall we?
All right.
You've been listening to the Digital to Dice podcast, episode 33, the Larry Bird podcast. Well,
that's right. Put a needle on the record, baby, because 33 1/3 is a long way around. Hey, we forgot to do the dice line at the beginning, so how can they get a hold of us that way?
yeah, a couple ways to get a hold of us. Obviously, digitaltodice.com is our website. And our text line, 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. Send us a text. We may or may not read it on the show. And as always, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always, a pleasure.
And we'll catch everybody next time. Bye-bye.